Hey everyone, I'm sorry I didn't give much notice on this, and I know I said I was putting up a video earlier and then I took that down, the notifications. I'm kind of sitting here with this Supreme Court thing, and I really want to talk about it a little bit. I'm hoping everybody else does too, because I'm kind of sitting on the fence with this. You don't know who I am. I'm Suzanne Tidkamar. I used to write for Pathos for almost 10 years. Um, Now I'm just doing my own thing on YouTube, and I'm working on my book, which I had to write a chapter this morning once I saw the news on what was going down with the Supreme Court, the document that was leaked. Small town Jewel Nitwit doing so much better. Finally kicked whatever this was. They never could figure out if it was a food allergy or if I had contracted one of the noroviruses. Definitely ill, riding the toilet for days. Was not a fun or pretty sight. Listening, exciting because I do not fully understand what is going on with the Roe versus Wade currently. I'm not sure I do either, do good letters. I was reading through the document last night. I was listening to Uncivil Law and others on it. This is going to be a major, like re-landscaping of the entire country if this thing goes through. And I think by leaking it, whoever it was that leaked it, it almost had to be somebody there in the Supreme Court. And you have to understand, um, there are a lot of people that handle those documents on these things. So it could be anybody. But I know they're talking about trying a full-scale investigation to see. I saw a reply to that. Yeah, small town Jewel. Yeah, I was just, and here's the thing. I've got powder on now, so you can't see it, but I still have three places that are still not 100% healed from my hospitalization where I had abscesses. So there's that. Anytime I can get away with not having an IV. You've never heard of a Supreme Court leak? I've heard of a few, Lola, but I've never seen one on something this major, this blowing it, landscaping out of. I think that's what they're going to do. I believe that the Supreme Court is going to kick this as a states' rights issue, allowing each state to pick it up. When I got up this morning, I was putting in my thing saying I wanted to talk about this. My best friend, one of my best friends, we've been friends for almost 40 years now, was immediately on the phone to me, and we had a several-hour conversation about this. I sat for 20 minutes talking to Squidward and chat earlier, thinking I'm sorry. I had to go ahead and change the times because see what happens. My friend called me, and then I started feeling kind of crappy. I'm still not 100%, but I'm way better than I was yesterday. Gotta hunker down and not. Yeah, Amy, I'm sure that plays a lot of it. But here's the thing. I think it could really create some serious divisions between states, between political parties, between members of everything. Well, I've done that, so don't feel bad. I've done that too. So I decided to go ahead and cancel that until I started thinking about this a little bigger and a little more, doing some reading on it. I just have to say, I don't like abortion, okay? For me personally, I could never have one. That's my personal choice, and I believe that is something that we all have to decide where we line up on that. I'm not sure how much I like the idea of telling everybody else that they can't have an abortion. So I'm kind of one of these in the middle. And the reason I say that is my old Quiverful church, we had a 12-year-old girl that was raped by her father, and she was taken to get an abortion. She was one of the few people I know in my old church that did. There were a couple other circumstances where I knew that people had quietly snuck it off and got one, and there was a reason for it. It wasn't like, hey, that Amber chick. It wasn't like, I believe in pro-choice. It was more, this is a horrible situation, and this is the best solution for the horrible situation. I had a girlfriend who had a baby that wasn't developing a brain. They went ahead and did that too. Yeah, Angela, I'm in the middle on this. For me, it's a no-go, but for everybody else, there are circumstances where that really is the best option. And here's the thing I'm really afraid of if they decide to go ahead and outlaw Roe v. Wade in the entire country. It's going to cut off more. Oh, I'm sorry, Network. It's going to cut off more helplines, more help, more everything for vulnerable women, particularly women like in the religious communities that are coming out, particularly if they have to, particularly if they defund things like Planned Parenthood, where not only can you get birth control and or possibly an abortion, you can also get medication, you can get exams, all kinds of different services that have not a damn thing to do with abortion. Angela, that's where I am. I don't want to tell anybody how to live their lives because I understand life is shades of gray. I only worry about my uterus. It's gone. Mine is too. What other people do with their bodies are their choice, in my humble opinion. Exactly, that Amber chick. That's how I feel about this whole thing. Now I'm watching all of my very conservative friends and some that I went to church with that are all rejoicing over this leak thing, saying, "Oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, bringing Jesus back to America." This ain't going to do it. This is just going to create more fighting, more dissension. It could be a really bad thing. After losing 5 babies, I realized I need to be able to choose for me. So on one hand, I'm against abortion, but I have my choice. That's how I am, Amy. And I say that as somebody who was quiverful dropout. I was not able to have another child when we joined our quiverful church. And I know, Lord knows I tried. I had 9 miscarriages before I finally had to have that thing ripped out because it was giving me horror movie levels of bleeding sometimes. And I was having to have a DNC 3 and 4 times a year just to maintain. So, like I said, I see both sides of this argument, and there are valid points that each side is making. But at the same time, I am so not comfortable telling anybody else what to do with their bodies. Because, yeah, Amy, that is just it's a no bueno situation at all. And we were trying to have more children because our youngest daughter had ITP, and the doctors at UVA told me the best thing I could do for her health is to have another child and bank the cord blood in case this came back, in case she had problems in the future. The most common times for ITP to come back are when a girl gets a period for the first time and when she goes to have a baby. We've already made it past that first period hump. She's getting married in June, and there may be another time where she's going to, one time in a couple of years in the future where she may have a baby. We've talked about it. And I'm still worried about that. And I'm still pissed off that I was not able to have a child and bank the cord blood because I would have gladly have done that for her. Even though I will say also, I loved children. We were talking about that earlier, my husband and I. In context of all of this, he was talking about a very close friend of his, Dimitri, that is from Greece. And Dimitri's wife, I forget where she's from, but they have one child. The little boy's like 6 or 7 years old. And Dimitri said, there won't be more children from us. We're trying to start, we have a business of their own. So everything we got goes into the business. We can only really sustain having one child. And his wife is now like 45 or so. So there won't be any more babies for them. And that's a reality, a sad reality for a lot of people. I would have liked to have had more. But at the same time, I'm grateful for the education the doctors that I dealt with had, because I definitely needed a DNC. And a DNC is one of those procedures they used to use to do abortions. They still use sometimes. And I keep seeing that fewer and fewer medical schools are actually teaching that procedure, which is awful because almost all of the time that's something that nobody likes to have done, but sometimes you have to. So I was happy to have had one. Didn't think I'd be able to have one, but thankfully I was. I had one early on, and then I was told I was not going to be able to have any more, that I had too much endometriosis and stuff, and I had 2 more. And then I was done. Even though I was trying with Quiverful and I was not able to have another child, when they opened me up to take my to do a hysterectomy, and I was given an option, like 5 or 6 different things they could do or ways. My Catholic hospital wouldn't do a DNC until I started miscarrying. Yes, 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 Amy. That is the frustration with the Catholic hospitals when you're going through that sort of thing. I had these options when I meant hysterectomy. And I chose the most radical one. I said, you go in there and you take anything that looks like it may ever turn cancerous. And my doctor did. He took my appendix, took everything else out of my, and took a ton of endometriosis material out of there. I had all kinds of problems going on, and I was never going to be able to have another child. And after he did the surgery, he said, well, we found out X, Y, and Z that we didn't know before. So it's pretty obvious. So I don't even understand how you have the 2 later ones. And I didn't know that either. It's kind of like, I can't tell you. I was told I would not have any more children after the first one. So to think that the courts are attempting to impact women's health care, because the only 2 people who should be concerned with the decision whether or not to have an abortion is a woman's medical care provider and her. That's it. Those are the only 2 people that really should have an opinion on that. And it's your body. I think if you're going through that, and let's be real here, it's not always the easiest thing either. One of my friends in my old Quiverful church had one because of she already had like 19 children. She could have given the Duggars a run for her money. And her health was pretty much shot because of all the children she'd had in a short period of time. She had serious enough health issues where that's what she did. So I find it really comical that some of these conservative groups are completely opposed to any abortions. Even in the cases of a 12-year-old girl who's carrying her father or rapist baby. Like I said, I hate it for me, but I'm not going to tell anybody else. So if they kick it to be states' rights, people already losing it. Please just stay sane, even if you disagree. Exactly. Act like an adult. That's one of my big fears about this, is that it's such a hot button issue. People are going to lose their damn minds. Do good letters. It's always bothered me too, particularly when they said about medical conditions, like someone hemorrhaging because they have a miscarried baby that they can't get out. Things like that. I wonder if you know who has voiced their opinion with a hissy fit. Well, that other YouTuber posted some stuff about it, and she's like gung-ho pro-abortion. I mean, not pro-abortion, pro-choice. And pretty damn arrogant about some of her pro-choice ideas. Like I said, for me, the thing I'm the most concerned about is that conservative women in religious cults, and even in standard evangelical, regular, like Baptist or something, that they will be harmed by this because it's going to cut off access to a lot of things for them, any kind of medical care. I know from my years in Quiverful that women are discouraged from ever getting any kind of medical care. And I know so many horror stories where someone denied having medical care. They didn't have any kind of traditional preventative medicine at all, and they ended up having pretty severe uterine cancer that had gone all over their body, was in their brain by the time it was discovered. And I've always said Quiverful men will go to the doctor with a paper cut, but you damn well better muffle your screams when you're having that baby. And they deny care to women and children, especially. So they really make it hard for everyone. And when you're looking at the vulnerable populations in some of the more conservative religious communities, vulnerable populations would be children and women. This is taking more from them because, like I said, they won't even be able to get decent health care in some places as a result of if the Supreme Court manages to overturn Roe v. Wade. Now, my girlfriend that I was talking to, I hate to say this, but there's more ways to get a safe procedure underground now. Amy, yes, I'm hearing about that. That's what I was just getting ready to speak about. One of my best friends is a lady named Reva. That's who I had a long conversation with this morning. Part of it was ranting about somebody we knew, and because we had both been part of both of us had our husbands were in the military and served at Fulda, West Germany. Okay. So we knew each other from then. She knew me because I worked at the USO. And we were discussing some people we knew that should have never had children. That if West Germany hadn't had a ban on abortion, these were people that I would think it would be better for because they had problems, significant problems. So she's talking about, she lives not too far from Illinois and Chicago. And Illinois has apparently said that they are not going to comply. They're going to allow abortion to be easily accessible in Illinois. And some of these states are making rules to say it, to say if you cross the state lines to have the procedure, you'll go to jail. So she was telling me about all the underground stuff that she's going to get involved with and the safety lines and things. And I just told her, it's like, this is so hotly contested and so awful that do not be surprised if you are arrested and go to jail over this. And she told me that she was ready to do exactly that. I'm in a Catholic country, a heavily Catholic country. So there's no option for that here. You cannot have an abortion in Costa Rica. The do good letters. Yes, women did pass in those days. And that's the scary thing to me is I don't think we should go back to your only options are a coat hanger or some skeevy back alley practitioner who charges you $10,000 and then kills you or scars you so that you can't have further children. That is not a good option for anybody. I went with a friend of mine. I don't know what I would say if my child would not live. Tamara, that's a hard one. It really is. And I was just going to say, I had one afternoon in the 90s where I went with a friend of mine who went to a clinic to talk about her options. I was not aware that it was an abortion clinic, and I had just joined my Quiverful church. So I sat in there with her while she went to her appointment. She needed moral support. And the thing that I noticed is nobody was happy to be there. It's not like some of the people who are anti-choice say we'll just do this. People use this birth control and it's way too done without any kind of thought. No. Everybody I saw in there that afternoon having procedures before and after, it was awful for them. I think that reaching out to people who need abortions, either before or after, and birth control, and sex education would do a lot more to bring the rates of abortion down. I might choose it if my child be born without a brain. Yes. So we don't know what's going to happen with any of this, but I guess the best thing you can do is decide where you are on this, how committed you are to either side, and what kind of violence you're ready to do in the name of whatever, because that's the thing that scares me about this whole thing. I think it's going to release some very violent nutballs on either side. Do I want to have a choice? Yes. Yeah, that part needs to stop, Amy. That really needs to stop. That's just wrong. It still sounds shocking. Thank goodness the UK isn't going down this route. The poor ladies with no choice. It's heartbreaking. Bluebell, I am so worried about that, especially my former religious community. I'm worried about all those girls that were young girls who are now young mothers that I knew quite well. Like severe Handmaid's Tale vibes for sure. It's insane. And that's what I'm afraid of, Do Good Letters. I am so afraid that the country is heading that way. Every time I've watched The Handmaid's Tale, my husband said, "How are you watching that garbage?" I'm like, "Garbage? Jim, this is the way we are headed if things do not change." The country is becoming so incredibly polarized, just like the world in Handmaid's Tale, where you have Gilead and then you have what's left of the United States. Amy, maybe. I hope so. But I even have concerns about that. Let me tell you why. I remember back in the mid 90s when everybody and their brother in Quiverful in evangelical town was pushing overseas adoptions. They were saying that the children desperately needed homes, which is true. The children, a lot of them did. But the other thing was, they were saying that this was a way to take over the world, adopt all these kids, bring them up as good Christian families, and you would be part of that Seven Mountain Mandate, taking over the world. It's just like Nancy. I almost called her by the wrong name. Nancy, and I'm having a senior moment. Red hair, flaming red hair. Nancy Campbell from Above Rubies was a big pusher of adoption in the evangelical world. Her daughter and her each adopted like 5 or 6 of them. Somewhere I have a chart that I had on NLQ where I showed what happened to the kids. Most of those children were rehomed. And that is a huge problem I see with adoptions. When I worked at a children's residential treatment center, the population fluctuated, but at any one time between 40 and 60% of the children in there were failed evangelical adoptions. Again and again and again and again and again, you would see these kids you'd see these kids that would be disrupted. They would be moved from pillar to post, would be given away, that would not understand that their evangelical family members that had adopted them wanted them to adjust to white America, to eat white people's food, to adjust to the culture, to not mourn for their own culture. There was just so much insanity going on around the whole evangelical adoption thing back starting around 94, I think it was, that it was just crazy. The outcomes have not been good at all. And it's still ongoing. And a lot of these Christian adoption agencies, you don't have to have near as much proof as you do if you go the traditional route and you go through social services, you go through a lawyer, where you have to be able to prove that you have a suitable environment, all of that. That goes by the wayside when it's a religious adoption. There are even people on some of the adoption boards that will point you to places that will do a faked home visit document for you so that you can get past the home visit section, things like that. So they're disrupting these kids, and the kids are going to God knows who. They have had kids that they've been disrupted and have ended up sex trafficked. I mean, quite a few. Most of them come away with pretty significant physical problems and mental problems. There have been not just traffickers. There have been people that make CP that have gotten some of these kids. There are people who are predators that would never qualify for a regular adoption. The home study is mandatory, Prairie, but they have ways of going around that. They have their own little home study mills that they use. Did you pay the fee? They come up with the thing. That's so sad. No matter how they call it, it is human trafficking. It absolutely is, Shelby. And that's the other thing that scares me about all of this. If they outlaw abortion throughout the U.S., just think of all the poor little unwanted children that are going to flood the adoption marketplace. And you have to wonder and worry how many of them are going to end up in the hands of a trafficker. Like I said, there's just so many layers to this thing that I'm still unpacking what it is I actually believe about all of this. And I have a friend that has adopted from disrupted adoptions, like 3 of them, and she's a decent mother. But so many of the times, these kids go from pillar to post, from better to worse, all of that. Catherine Joyce wrote a really good book on foreign adoption. I can't remember the name of it right now. But the kids that she interviewed that are now grown, that were brought over from other countries for foreign adoptions by evangelicals in the U.S., one of them said, I went from Africa to Africa. Why? Because they went from Africa, real Africa, to homes within the poorest of the poor evangelical families where they were treated like slave labor. I was told by someone on Facebook if my mom was smart, she would have aborted me because of my conditions I had. Angela, that is horrible. That is truly horrifying that a person would think that that was an adequate thing to say. Lately on Facebook, I have had an influx of very conservative people who've tried to friend me. Now, I normally will accept anybody as a friend on Facebook and Twitter, but if I have a Twitter profile that pops up that's friended me and I see they have no friends of mine, there's nothing in common between I and them, and they're spouting nonsense that I don't believe in, I will block them. It's about the only way I will block somebody is when that happens. The opinion leak is a great way to divert everyone's attention from rising gas prices, inflation, and supply chain. Yeah, it is. It is. But at the same time, the U.S. has bobbled all of those things, and those things aren't going away no matter how much they try to distract us with the issues of abortion. I hate to say this, but I predict things are going to get worse in the U.S. before they get better. There's just too much tension. There's just too much everything going on with all of these things. You probably do, Angela. And as long as you don't have F you for believing this, you so and so, I'm fine with you. It's just when I have people that have pretty extremist beliefs and they're cursing others out, and I can see I have nothing in common with them, it's like block, because I know what they're there for. Yeah, if I don't know you or you don't have at least 100 mutual friends, I'm declining it. Shelby, yes. So there's that. There is that. And I just have to say a little bit. Yeah, I know, right? Why do they have to do this now? Some of us are still recovering from 2020. Exactly. And some of the ones I'm talking about are ones that have not let go of 2020. I'm a retired NICU nurse, and I can't remember forget the stories that some of the OB doctors told me of trying to repair and save the lives of women who did botched abortions. I know it's horrific. I used to volunteer for a clinic in my little town that was anti-abortion, that you would call up, crisis line, I guess you'd say. And I ended up having to stop doing that because I started hearing some pretty horrific stories and seeing that some of the people I was volunteering with were telling these people with these horrific stories, like the 12-year-old who'd been raped by a father, that the baby was going to be an enormous blessing to them. And I was just blown away by some of the things that were excused and all of that. So that was the point that turned me where I was like, yeah, I wouldn't have one, but I'm not going to step in the way of anybody who wants one. It's just horrific. And it probably is trying to distract us right now from everything. But the thing is, there's such a horrific amount of things going on right now. I mean, even between Ukraine and everything else, then I think that things aren't going to get any better for a while. We're going to have to strap ourselves in, try not to take offense, try to remember the other people are human who are giving us hassle, and kind of ride this one out. I think. I can't tell you how many people are coming here to Costa Rica now from the States to live. It has driven our house prices up almost 3 times, and rents the same way. So I don't think any of this is going to get any better. We're going to see more and more Americans here, I think. Um, it's bad for me because I still have stuff in the States I have to go back and do every now and then. I wish I didn't now. That's what will happen if they outlaw it everywhere. Don't agree with abortions when the baby is 7, 8, 9 months long. Yep, right. But men shouldn't be the ones to tell moms what to do. How dare they? Exactly. Yeah, please don't burn down the world, folks. Take a deep breath and try to be calm. And it kind of horrifies me because, I mean, Americans used to listen to each other and try to consider each other's views. One of the books that I read recently in my huge amount of books I've been reading since I started having health problems in early February, late January, I guess it was one by John Boehner, Speaker of the House for some years. Living in the DC area, you hear all kinds of gossip about Boehner. Somebody will get hurt over this. That's what I think is going to happen. And I'm afraid for that, actually, Angela. So Boehner's book, even though he wasn't my favorite person, he made some very important points about how once upon a time, people used to work together. They'd reach across the aisle in the Congress and Senate between the Democrats and the Republicans. They'd get stuff done. He talked about some of his colleagues on the other side that he liked, and it was good to read that after the madness of some of the things that have happened in our government. Mexico is a good choice too. It really is. Too low reading, yeah. There's some beautiful places there. There's some very inexpensive places to live there. There's still some inexpensive places to live here. There are even some good beaches where nobody lives that would be good. I just don't recommend Nicaragua or El Salvador right now. I matched when I was young to get our you marched, okay, and I'll march again as an older lady. How could they do this to me? You know, when I'm in the States, I plan on marching too, because I'm sure there will be marches about this. I have trouble walking, but I'm going to march because it is time. I haven't marched for anything before. I've watched march. Well, I'll take that back. I've been to a couple in DC when I lived there. But this is too important. And it's too important for our daughters, our granddaughters. It's a issue. My only issue with this is they're going to take away birth control and contraceptives so people don't have to get an abortion. They have the right to be educated about safety. Celine, exactly. I think that's what I said earlier. I think they should be promoting education and birth control and help for pregnant ladies instead of just banning it. I think they underestimated the power of women, and we will see what women think about men making decisions about our bodies in the next election. Barbara, it's going to go very, 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 very poorly for them. And I'm reading through all the news sources in the States and seeing how people are outraged today. I was outraged last night when I was listening to on civil law, reading the documents. It's shocking. It is truly shocking. And if you ban abortions, things are going to get really bad, I'm afraid. And you can't legislate human desire. You just can't. And I think that most people who've seen this are so shocked and there's so much outrage that I don't see how the Supreme Court is going to be able to rule that way. There's going to be marches, armed looting, God knows what. I don't agree with abortion for myself, but it's not anybody else's decision to decide what I do and shouldn't do for my own welfare. Yeah, it's not my decision for what other women do either. I think so too. And I came out of that cult church where birth control was thought to be evil. I think they leaked it. I think whoever leaked it with the purposes of generating these kinds of conversations so that people will put pressure on the Supreme Court, pressure on their congressmen, congresswomen, senators, and say, we don't want this. We don't want this. And if they pass it, if they even attempt to, I think it's going to go very poorly for the Conservative Party in the next election. Now, why Biden and them ever let it get to this point? I'm not a big fan of our president. I'm not a big fan of our vice president. I support them in the office, but I'm not a big fan of either one. So there is that too. It's kind of funny because I really am more of a moderate at heart about a lot of things. I took birth control pills to manage my cycle. I did too for a couple of years, Angela, but my church leaned on me hard to stop. So I stopped, and it was horrible. No, Amy, I agree. Nobody needs to be aborting an 8-month-old baby. No one needs to be doing that. I'm not a fan of late-term abortion. I never have been. I don't understand it. I don't understand why would they let it get that way. That Amber chick, so many people are like that. My husband's like that. That's why you have these long discussions about this crap, because we both have thoughts on it. He sometimes gets me mad because lately he's been watching Tucker Carlson and everybody else on Fox. So I'm kind of like, how are you listening to that? Put the question on the ballot. That would be nice. I wish they would do that. I wish it would come up as a referendum and let the people vote on it. Because we're really the ones that are supposed to be. That Amber chick, my husband was very liberal until recently. He's no longer, because of some of the things that have gone down with the government. And now he's Mr. Conspiracy Theory, who has some right-wing views and some not so right-wing views. I'm upset with him right now because he is pro-Putin. And well, not pro-Putin, I guess you'd say. He thinks that the war was inevitable and what we've done has caused it. And I'm still not sure if that's the truth or not. How could Biden have stopped this? I don't know of anywhere that does late-term abortions. I don't know that he could have stopped it. I don't know if he has any influence whatsoever. But to know that this got this far before anybody had anything to say about it, or know anything about it, I should say, is shocking to me. I knew a woman that had an ectopic pregnancy. Going to another state is not an option if she's blacking out on her way to the hospital. Exactly. The transformed wife is jumping for joy over it. But sex isn't going to stop because of it. The whole world, I've been within this, you can't escape it. Yeah, Celine, I think that the transformed wife has said some really horrible, nasty things lately. She has been on a fat shaming binge where she's shaming anybody who's not a willow thin stick like her, and she's making it a morality issue when it is really not a morality issue at all. I've been told that her own daughters have suffered from eating disorders, and I think maybe she does too from reading her things. Back before 1973, you could get an abortion for medical reasons. That's exactly right. So that has always been an option before, if there was a medical reason. And I suspect that for things like a raped 12-year-old, they probably would have allowed you to have one then too. And they would have just billed it and listed it differently than abortion. There's no easy answer. I think we're just going to have to keep calm and soldier on. The only thing I can think of at this time. I'm pro-life with the exception of grape and CSA. Yep. A federal ban would only end abortion for poor people. Exactly. I said that one too earlier to my husband. A person with sufficient means can just go to another country, such as relatives, politicians, Supreme Court justices. Exactly. Exactly. It would not affect anybody but poor people. Middle class people, rich people could easily afford a flight to Canada, have it done, or elsewhere. I mean, they can't even stop people from going to other countries to have harmful, quite expensive medical procedures that have been proven in the United States not to work. There's a lot of that going on. Why don't they make it against the law to cross country lines to do that for the things that you know won't work? It's all very upsetting. Who knows? And I just have to throw out this. I just been watching Renelle Smith's video. I don't know if you guys have seen Renelle talking about she's having an issue with Backwoods Barbie. Backwoods Barbie is weaponizing her mental health struggles, which kind of sucks. I just gotta have to say that. Many people, as Renelle points out, have mental health struggles. I was writing about that in my book recently. I was writing about having gone through a serious depression after my child's first illness and how it took therapy and drugs to get over that. Small Town Jewel, you just watched it. I just watched it too. There's no need to weaponize that. We just need to be supportive of each other, but don't use it as a weapon towards others. One married woman actually got pregnant later in life when she was on prescription drugs that caused severe birth defects. Java man, we had a family member that happened to. I am a left-winger, as you might know, but I'm full support of federal protections for people to have abortions. Legislation like this would just make it harder for struggling people. Another truth, that's exactly. This is going to take that off the table for people who are already caught in the cycle of poverty. It's going to make it a lot worse. I know exactly why she's going after Renelle. Renelle did a video recently, and I don't even remember what the subject was. I think it was probably KJ because 90% of her content is KJ. And some people in the comments said some nasty things about Backwoods Barbie. And not even really, I don't even think that nasty, but they said some things about Backwoods Barbie. And Backwoods Barbie was upset that Renelle would not edit the comments off and ban the people from commenting for saying nasty things about Backwoods Barbie. Small Town Jewel, I think it's because she's just kind of fed up with it because Backwoods Barbie and her have had some issues that had to do with those comments. And basically, I did a video too on it. I said, no creator owes another creator to edit their comments. They just don't owe you that, no matter what your mental health is. I thought Renelle dealt with the issue so well and acted like an adult. Yeah, she has, pretty much. But apparently Backwoods Barbie keeps coming for her and keeps saying things. And it's upsetting to Renelle, who's quite nice, really smart. Yeah, Amy, at least you know where you stand with her. You absolutely do. I tried to apologize to her, I guess a couple months ago, about a remark I made here that upset her, where I said $100,000 for an income wasn't very much because where we lived, it wasn't. And I keep forgetting that places like rural Mississippi, that's a fortune. So I made some kind of snarky remark about that being a low income, and she exploded. There's also Griswold versus Connecticut, married people having access to contraception, and Loving versus Virginia, interracial marriage have also been discussed to be overturned. Java man, that breaks my heart that they would even discuss that. Married people should always have access to, well, actually, let me back up. Not married people, anybody that wants contraception and is of any age. I mean, obviously, you're not going to give the pill to a 5-year-old girl. But anybody who has reached sexual maturity and wants access to contraception should have that option, should have that right. I remember when I was a teenager, the big thing was your boyfriend having to run to the pharmacy to get condoms. That's how old I am. So it upsets me when they try to cut off access. It is harsh, Small Town Jewel. She was really harsh on Backwoods Barbie. All I can say is Backwoods must be sending a ton of commenters over, because see, that's the thing that a lot of people don't see, is the hate that YouTubers get from other people's commenters, which is one reason I try to just overlook a lot of stuff. One of the big ones that gets me is, you know who, that certain YouTuber. Not Another Housewife did a video on it today. She details every beef since being on YouTube. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Shelby, I have to take a look at that. I've just been busy. I've been busy sitting on the toilet, so I haven't been able to do anything, and laying up in the bed trying to recover. So I know Renelle seems like she's harsh with it, but I think Renelle has just gotten fed up with it because of the things that were said, because of the people that come. Like I said, you don't see all the ones that come. Shelby, I do feel a lot better today, but it's been 8 days of torture with my stomach, and they couldn't figure out if it was one of my food allergies was showing up again, or if I picked up a norovirus. Yesterday, they were telling me that if I did not improve some by today, because of the prescriptions they were giving me, that they were going to have to put me in the hospital and give me a whole lot of fluids and other things and run more tests. So thankfully I got it today, and I'm worlds better, because I couldn't have done this yesterday. I couldn't have sat here and strung 3 words together coherently. In fact, it's kind of funny. I've decided from now on, I don't do streams if I'm feeling really crappy. Why? Because I did a stream a couple of weeks ago in the evening when I was definitely not myself. And I'm sorry. I made a throwaway comment or two that was taken the wrong way by somebody that I thought was a friend, and they immediately turned around and made a video about me. I kind of laughed, just like, okay, you have your opinion, I have my opinion, and that's the truth of the matter, was somewhere probably between. Yeah, we don't need to be nasty to each other at all. Understand where Backwoods Barbie is coming from with certain feelings and symptoms. However, telling people how to handle their own channel messages is going too far. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's why Renelle is being so upset with this, because it's so unfair. No, I know I am quite pale right now. My only problem with her is that she does use her mental health as a weapon and a shield, and that's not so cool. You don't tell other creators what to do. You don't weaponize your own feelings. And I know there's a temptation to do that, because when Bobby did his video about me, I was tempted to go off the deep end at him, but I was like, no, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to listen to what he's saying. And I'm going to carefully consider if he has a point. I didn't think he did, except that I will say that the stream he was upset about, I had been not well. And I did the stream and I was babbling, so there's no telling. Okay, so it's almost an hour here. It's 49 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and go because I'm babbling now. I can feel it coming. I'm losing my mind and my brain. But I discovered I have some wonderful Italian provolone. I think I'm going to go have a toasted cheese sandwich and watch some TV and crochet. Feeling 10 trillion times better. My husband's out there running errands, so it's a good day. Love you guys. Try not to take offense at anyone. I mean, even if it's someone on the opposite political side as you, if you can't be pleasant, or at least cordial, and explain your position, then don't engage. It's my best. You're not watching TV. Okay. Yes, Small Town Jewel, the medicine worked. I'm much better. You guys have great days, a great afternoon, evening, whatever it is where you are.